First off, I want to say thank you guys for having me and thank you for giving me a chance to speak. I always relish these opportunities when I get them. I always like to get in front of new people and spread my message. How many of you guys have ever heard of Fight the Fight clothing before tonight? Anybody? A couple people. How many of you guys have ever heard my name before tonight? Who I am?
Your dad.
A couple people, yeah.
I've known him for years.
Yeah, yep. But this is Fight the Fight clothing. This is our logo, and I'll talk a lot more about it as I go through my presentation. So, after I wrote this speech, I couldn't decide what to call it. And as I was going back through it, I asked myself, well, what is it really about? And it's about how I create, over the last 5 months, I created something good from nothing. And it's spreading to more and more people every day. The more people it spreads to, the more people I can help. So I called it the Grassroots Business Blueprint because that's really what it is. So here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you who I am, what I've done, and how what I've done can help you. That's our roadmap. So I always like to start my presentations by telling you a little bit about my dad, Pete Sr. He's lived in Litchfield all his life, hard-working guy, 62 years old, retired in May, retired a couple months. On July 4th this year, my mom sent me a text and said that we're taking your dad to the emergency room, but it's no big deal. So I told Liz, I said, I'm 27 years old. My dad has never been to the doctor in his life except to take me. I said, so it can't be no big deal if they told us he's going to the emergency room. So we went over there. His hand fell asleep for about 30 seconds when he was out in the yard. That's why he went. And they were testing him for carpal tunnel, and I knew he had arthritis. I just told Liz, his arthritis is acting up, or he's got carpal tunnel and needs to have that little surgery, but he'll be fine. So we got over there. Right after we got there, they did a CT scan on his brain that they do as a routine every time somebody comes into the emergency room. About 15 minutes after that, we were in there and Liz and I were talking about where we were going to go watch fireworks at that night. The doctor came in and he said these words that shook me and my family to our core, and the words that changed the course of our lives forever. He looked at my dad and he said, Pete, you have a mass on your brain and it's not small. And he said, you need to go to Springfield right now. And then he left the room. There were a lot of tears. My dad got in the ambulance, went to Springfield. By the time we got there, he was already being evaluated by one of the top neurosurgeons in the Midwest. 2 days later, he had to have a brain biopsy. And if you don't know, a brain biopsy isn't like a normal biopsy. They had to drill a hole in his head and take a piece of the tumor out to find out if it was malignant or benign. So they did that procedure. He was in the hospital 2 more days, and he got to go home for a week. We had kind of a normal week at home. We were bracing ourselves. We were hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. They called us to go back up there, and they told us that his tumor was in fact malignant, and it was very aggressive and very dangerous. So more tears were shed that day. 2 days later, on a Monday, he had major brain surgery to have the tumor removed from the front right side of his brain, which controls the left side of his body. Now this is about the most serious brain surgery that you can have and still live. The kicker was he had the surgery on Monday. Liz and I and our whole families had our huge wedding planned for that Saturday. So he had basically 4 days to recover from the most serious surgery you can have. He had the surgery, came out of it. It was a miracle what happened. He took an experimental drug that lit the tumor up so they could tell the difference between it and the healthy brain tissue. They got as much of the tumor as they could, and they left his healthy tissue alone, and he came out of it. His left side was a little bit impaired, but today he's up and walking around on his own, and on Wednesday he just had another follow-up MRI scan, and thankfully his scan was clean. So, and he did end up making it to the wedding, so that was another miracle that happened to my dad. So that all happened 5 months ago, July 4th. And that's what really started the chain of events that led to Fight the Fight. So what have I done over the past 5 months? In early July, one of those days when we were sitting in the hospital, I got this book from the bookstore, and it's called Start Something That Matters by Blake Mykowski. He's the guy who started Tom's Shoes. If you don't know Tom's Shoes, they're 1 for 1. So every time you buy a pair of Tom's shoes, they give a pair to a kid in another country that needs shoes. So as I was reading this book, I got the idea. I said, why doesn't somebody do this with money? Why can't I have a product? Why can't I sell shirts and give 50% of the profit to people that incur large unexpected medical expenses? So that's where I got the idea, and I knew as soon as I read that's what I was going to do. The name. Liz and I thought of this in the car ride home from the hospital one day, and we knew it as soon as we said it. We went through 1,000 names before this. As soon as we said Fight the Fight, we knew that was it, because it's more than a name, it's a message that represents what our brand is all about. The logo. This was later that day. I sketched out the logo on a piece of paper. I had a friend who's a graphic designer, and he got a hold of it. This is what he came up with. So this is our logo. The cross represents God, who's always with us. The wings represent those doctors and nurses that are the angels on our shoulders whenever we get in those tough situations with our health. And the shield represents the protection that Fight the Fight can offer people from financial worry when they're facing tough times. And I also posted that day on Facebook. The first time I told anybody else about it, I posted a Facebook note, and the response was just crazy, overwhelmingly good. And I knew I was going to do it before I posted that, but after I saw the reaction, I was even more entrenched to that this was going to be my life from this point forward. Late July, I put my own money on the table for the first time. I took $1,000 of my own money. I invested in shirts and other supplies we needed, banners, those type of things. And these are actually the first ever shirts from Fight the Fight right there on the table. And a word about this, and I know we're all in business here, I don't ever really think there's any risk involved for you unless your money is on the table. I mean, that is the truly scary feeling in business. That is your money to lose. On July 21st, on my wedding day, the day before actually, I created a Facebook page, a Twitter account, and a website for Fight the Fight. On the wedding day, after the groomsmen and the maid of honor did their speeches, I announced to everybody there what Fight the Fight was, and I collected 250 email addresses that night at my own wedding. So that's how I really got the word out first. I debated whether or not that was ethical. In early August, I published the first survivor story on our website. If you've never seen our site before, each week we post a survivor story of someone who's overcome a serious medical condition. Most of them have been from cancer. And the stories they just spread, they go viral. And it's not like reading a normal blog article that you read online. I mean, these are real, powerful stories that really give people hope and that really help people. So that helped get our brand out as well. August 2012, I was just being an entrepreneur. I had no place to sell the shirts, so I sold the first 100 of them out of the trunk of my car. This is something that I still kind of do today. When I first put them in there, I didn't think that I would sell but maybe a couple the first month. The first week, I had people chasing me down wherever I was at to buy one of these shirts out of the back of my trunk. So that was kind of fun. In late September 2012, Liz and I had our first booth, which was at the Fall Festival in Bunnell. We set a goal for that day to sell 10 shirts, ended up selling between 50 and 60, and we sold more revenue than any other vendor there. And all we had was this little table, no tent, no anything. And one of the business lessons I learned from this is that if I'm going to do an event, I'm going to set it up. I told people for weeks that we were doing this. Most of the other people just put up their table and sat there. I mean, I really set it up, and we're going to the Carlinville Market tomorrow, so I'm hoping for a good weekend there too. But I did the same thing. I took all this time, all this energy to set it up, let people know we were going to be there. In late September 2012, Fight the Fight shirts became available online for the first time. This took the geographic limitations off of our company. We can now sell to anybody, anytime, anywhere. We can ship them shirts. We've sent some to Europe, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Pennsylvania. So we're branching out. In October 2012, we were covered by our first mainstream media outlet, which is the Bengal Post from Gillespie. The Bengal Post is an online newspaper. And you wouldn't think that that many people read it, but literally it has thousands of readers. And by our story being published online, it was able to be shared hundreds of times, got thousands of views, and that opened us up to a whole new audience that would have never heard about us before, especially in our local community. Early November 2012, I decided that our donations are going to be time frame based. So before, whenever you bought a shirt for the first month, I only gave the money to whoever had the next benefit coming up that I heard about locally. After I said it's time-based, you got 1 month, and that the 50% share goes to this person. The customers knew definitively where their money was going. So that really helped us out, spread the word. Late November 2012, we did the holiday market. I did the same thing again. I set it up for weeks, and we had a great day there. We just had a little bitty table. We were kind of boxed in here. We had about I don't know, what do you think, a 6x5 space we were in. We almost had to put Liz in that box to sell them, but we had another great day there because we told people about it. This is the most rewarding thing that I've done so far since I've started Fight the Fight. On November 18th, I was able to donate $1,000 to Caleb Martin from Gillespie. Caleb's 20 years old. He was just diagnosed with cancer in his leg and in his lungs. He was between jobs, and his health insurance hadn't quite kicked in yet. So I spent all month. It took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of people, a lot of shirts to get that money. But I was very proud to post that whenever we were able to donate that. So what's next for Fight the Fight? I told you before, we're going to the Carnival Market this weekend, so we're hoping for another good weekend there. Strategic partnerships. I'm starting to develop relationships with a lot of local charities and a lot of other people and organizations that can be the relationship and on the terms of the business can be mutually beneficial for the both of us. One of the charities is Three Little Birdies out of Belleville. They'll be my next partner for a venture that we're doing. Celebrity endorsements. I'm doing my best to get these shirts in the hands of the biggest celebrities that I can possibly do, and I'm working the heck out of my network right now to try to get them out there. I've already got one. We got one picture of a jewelry designer for Rihanna, Lindsay Lohan, and Katy Perry. And I'm really pushing, hoping to get a picture of Katy Perry in one of the shirts. But I don't know if that'll happen or not. Every day on our Facebook page, we post a customer pic, and then we tag the person in it. So if you know Facebook, you know that the bigger the celebrity, the more people see it. So we're really trying to get that going. I want to be sold in retail stores. I think one of our goals for this coming year is to be sold in a national chain of stores. When you go in the Gap or the Buckle or a store like that, you'll be able to purchase our shirts. Speaking engagements. I like to take as many of these speaking engagements as they'll let me, and I think that what I have to say can help you, and me being here and talking to you is word of mouth marketing, so it helps me as well. So the relationship's beneficial. Innovation. You know, I'm not just trying to sell your average run-of-the-mill T-shirts. You know, we're trying to do everything we can to give you the best possible products that are on the market. We're trying to push the limits of what we can do. This shirt I'm wearing here, I don't know if I've ever seen a hoodie like this with this foiled logo, but that's one of the innovations that we've done so far is the foil on the logos. So what have I learned on the business front over the past 5 months? Number one, I've learned if you don't take risk, there's no reward. And I really think this should say no money, no reward, or no money, no risk. Because like I said before, unless it's your money on the table, it's hard to really feel that risk. But I will say whenever you take that risk, there are people that will get behind you and help you. So don't be afraid. I know you guys do that often. You will only work your hardest if you're doing what you love. If what you're doing is not your purpose in life, you're not going to work your hardest at it. You know, I firmly believe that. I always think about if I'm on my deathbed and I'm laying there and I'm going to die, when I look back, I want to say that I did what I wanted to do and I did it my way. So your passion has to be in line with your purpose. Number 3, tell stories that spread. When I say this, I mean create products, services, and customer experiences that are remarkable. That means they're worth remarking. If I always say boring is broke. You can't have a product or service that is just like everybody else. You have to go above and beyond, and you have to go so far above and beyond that customers spread it from one to the next, because word of mouth marketing is the best marketing there is, and it's free. Don't just manage, break the rules. I kind of got early in my career, especially kind of with the gym a little bit. You can't just be a bean counter. You have to break the rules, you have to take chances, you have to innovate, you have to start projects, take risks, and that's the only way that you're going to move forward. One of the most powerful lessons that I can tell you is, if you're just managing, if that's all you do is go to your job and manage, all you're doing really is counting somebody else's money. You have to always be willing to step out, start initiatives, and push forward. Procrastination is for people who want to stay broke. Successful people get stuff done. The most successful people I know don't just get stuff done, they get it done right away, right now. Speed is not a commodity. Speed is a core competency. So get things done, face your toughest challenges head on. Don't be afraid to ask others for help. I ask people for stuff all the time. I ask people for money to buy in exchange for shirts. I ask people if I could come speak at their events. I ask people to help me out whenever I'm at the benefits. You just can't be afraid to ask people. The biggest thing is money. Early on I was afraid to ask people to pay $20 for a t-shirt, but now I'm not, because I know that $20 is a good price for a shirt. It's not just a shirt, it's a vehicle to help somebody else. So you can't be afraid to ask people for things, especially money. Be willing to sacrifice the 9-to-5 lifestyle. I think if you're in business, or if you own a business, you know this, you got to know this going in. If you work 9 to 5, that just means you have more time from 5 to 9 to get your stuff done. When I always think about Donald Trump and Steve Jobs, like, does Donald Trump quit at 5? When Steve Jobs was alive, did he look at his watch and say, oh, it's 5:01, time to clock out? No. I mean, these guys, it's almost like an obsession, almost like a crazy feeling. That's the way you have to be to really get to the top. And you won't do that unless you're doing something that you love. Number 8, and this is my last point, my conclusion here, is take responsibility for your own success. I'm around a lot of young people that are always looking for somebody else to get a job. The guys that are sending out thousands of resumes, they're always giving me a story, I can't find a job, there's nobody hiring. Don't make your success somebody else's responsibility. That's not up to somebody else to give you a good job. It's up to you to earn that position. It's up to you to start something that matters. So I was like that when I first came out of college. I was looking for handouts. I was looking for somebody to give me that job. And until you really step up and take ownership of your own life and realize that our life is a result of the choices we make, you're not going to be living the life that you want to live. And the last thing that I want to leave you guys with, there's 3 quotes that I really hold dear, that really guide everything I do. Number 1 is start something that matters. Start something that affects people in a positive way. Number 2 is be so good they can't ignore you. Number 3 is don't ever quit. So thank you guys for allowing me to speak. Appreciate it.